Hello, I'm Karen Brown. Welcome to another edition of Don't Lecture Me. Today I have as my guest author Lee Child with his new novel, 61 Hours, his latest installment in the Jack Reacher series of thrillers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Karen.
F. Scott Fitzgerald said there are no second acts in American lives, but he couldn't have been talking about our next guest. First of all, this writer was born in Coventry, England, and second of all, he spent the first act of his life as a television director in Great Britain. Now he's a best-selling author who has written a character with no family, no home, no driver's license, and no real job. The character is Jack Reacher. The author, with his 14th Reacher novel called 61 Hours, is Lee Child. Good morning, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Before you became a writer, you were a television director, and you became a writer rather late in life. I don't mean to say that you're old, but it was really a second career for you.
It was, and actually it's a second career for a lot of writers, and I think that's one of the great things about writing. Not only can you, but you should start it when you're older, when you're halfway through your working life, because by that point you've got something in there. You know, you've seen things, you've experienced things, you've understood things, and you've filled the tank for 20 years, and now it's time for it to come out again.
Your website is Lee Child and Jack Reacher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you describe him as tall, not handsome like a movie star, but not ugly either.
Uh-huh.
With steel blue eyes. And I look at you and, gee, what a resemblance. So is he indeed your alter ego? Because really you are, for our listeners, you are much more handsome than not ugly, or not handsome, but like a movie star.
No, I think I would go as far as to say not ugly, but that's about all. But yeah, you know, all series writers, I think, are pretty much it's autobiographical, or at least wish fulfillment, which it is for me. I mean, he and I share a lot of trivial tastes and preferences and so on. We have the same birthday, but that's all kind of in-joke. Really, it's about, if I could get away with it, if I lived in a fictional universe, of course I would do what he does.
And that's my next question, because he has no ties whatsoever. You are married.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have children?
I have one daughter. Yeah, she's going to be 30 next month.
But do you like the idea of not having a driver's license and not having to file taxes and people
Absolutely.
not knowing where you might be at any given time?
Well, you know, this is May right now, and we've just all filed our taxes last month. So right now, absolutely, I would love not to be involved in all that kind of hassle. But and it's a universal desire, I think. At book signings, I get all kinds of men in particular. Some of them very well dressed, are clearly professional men, lawyers or doctors or whatever, and they kind of lean across the table and whisper. They say, "I wish I could do that. Just walk away and leave it all." Because obviously these commitments and things get on top of you, and the fantasy of just walking off into the sunset, not knowing where you will be tomorrow, I think is a very powerful thing.
After 14 books, what is there still to discover about Jack?
A lot, really, because I've been very cautious about describing him. He's only very lightly sketched in. And part of that is because the character really is a historic character. It's more or less a metaphor. This character has been around for 1,000 years, possibly more, the knight errant, and wanders the land doing right where he can, without really a past, without a future, just existing in the present. So the character as a literary device is really like that. And so in the contemporaneous narrative, you can't really describe him too much. He mustn't be fixed in a place or a time. He's just a wandering spirit.
Does he ever surprise you? You're the author and you're the writer, but you can't always know where you're going. Your character has to lead you at times, I would guess.
Yeah, although that is a really odd way of putting it, because who's doing the typing here, you know? It's me, not him. But that's a sensation that happens to me, not very frequently, but it certainly does. And what it really means is that you are not 100% in the zone. And when the character surprises you, what that really means is your subconscious warns you. It says to you, no, you haven't thought this through. This is not how this person would act. This is not how this would turn out. And that's happened to me a couple of times where I've thought I was, writing a great scene, but I must have realized deep down I was going wrong with it, and the character kind of took over.
If someone is discovering you, Lee Child, for the first time, and they don't know anything about Jack Reacher, do they have to read the other books before they read 61 Hours.
No, they don't. Absolutely not. And that is partly a product of the fact that he is this wanderer with no past, and his personality anyway is such that he would never dwell on things that have happened before. So you can read each book; they stand alone. You don't require any knowledge of what's gone before. You can start anywhere.
Well, before we wrap this up, we better ask you about 61 Hours, this book specifically, and what it's about and what will intrigue people about it. The title alone, certainly.
And the title is where it started. It just popped into my head, 61 Hours. And because all thrillers are about pace, and not necessarily breathtakingly fast pace, they can sometimes be ominously slow, but the pace must be relentless. And so the title 61 Hours popped into my head, and I just thought, all right, let's write a story that starts somewhere and then ticks away, counts down 61 hours to when it ends. So that's where the story came from, the initial idea. And the setting, South Dakota, I wanted somewhere with dramatic winter weather. Because I once did a book set in the west of Texas in a heat wave, where the heat was a character in the story, more or less. So I thought, can I do that with cold? And the Dakotas in the middle of winter are brutal and very extreme. So I thought if I set it there, then the winter becomes a character. It becomes a factor. It means that people can't get around as easily. Things can't be done as easily. Everybody's trapped. And it becomes a kind of locked room situation where everybody's in town, nobody can get out, and there's something wrong happening.
There is a prison involved, a possible prison riot is in the mix.
A brand new prison outside of town that is running okay at the moment, but is always in danger of going off the rails. And if it does, then the local police department has to respond, which then leaves the townspeople, and one of them in particular, very vulnerable. Plus, a few miles to the west, there's one of those strange Cold War installations that nobody can remember what it's for, nobody can remember how it was built or what's in there. It's just this strange little building out on the prairie, and there's something going on there as well. And is all this stuff connected? What is going to happen?
The book is called 61 Hours. Our guest is Lee Child, and I thank you for watching us on Don't Lecture Me.
Thank you, Karen.